Hey folks, it's been a while. Basically been busy doing some job hunting and other things going on in my life, and our adventure's been over for a couple of weeks here. So, kind of took a bit of a break, and now kind of circling back around and doing some small adventures over the summer. Uh, Summer's always slower for me, adventure-wise with D&D, getting people together because people are always running off. But at any rate, I want to talk more about monsters. Um, so many words, right? Let's talk about the last adventure I DM'd. I'll give like a real quick synopsis, kind of set the stage, and then talk about some of the monsters that I used in there to try and give folks ideas on some of the monsters that Cobalt Press has released in the past, as well in this case, some of their monsters from the Monster Vault. So I just ran the Desert of Desolation. So this is again a 1E module that I converted to Tales of the Valiant. So I really kind of ran this because Wizards of the Coast really pissed me off. What else is new? So recently, I shouldn't say recently, but Wizards had done one of their books that republished old 1E adventures. And in this case, it republished Pharaoh, right, which is a desert adventure that I enjoyed DMing many moons ago, right? Um, but yeah, but that book was so disappointing because they nerfed these adventures in so many ways. They didn't really republish it so much as take some bits out of it and just kind of republished part of it in a sense. So in this case, in the first part of the module, you go into a pyramid and you do all kinds of fun things in the pyramid, right? What you do in pyramids, right? There's traps, there's monsters, whatever else you can come up with, right? But the whole lead up to getting there had basically been cut out, right? And they didn't republish the other modules after that, right? Because this was part of a three module set. So I ended up running the old module set as opposed to what Wizards created, right? And basically convert that to TOV as I wanted to. So the storyline is there is an Ifrit, and he had been devastating this desert land thousands of years ago, long time ago, and a wizard had banished him imprisoned him, we'll say, right? But the wizard had foreseen that the Efreet was going to get out again someday in the future. So the wizard made these plans to basically be able to be resurrected after he died thousands of years in the future so he could take out this Efreet once and for all. So basically, the idea that the adventurers had to do was um, basically resurrect the wizard, which was not going to be that easy. He had set up this whole elaborate thing to put the players through their paces to make sure that nobody either awoke him too early or stole his stuff or whatever you want to rationalize it, right? Excuse me. So that was the general idea. The adventurers working towards unlocking the wizard to take care of this ancient evil. So, uh, yeah, so, like I said here, the storyline was really incomplete. Um, Again, kind of similar to the last one I did, last adventure I talked about, right? Being a 1E adventure. There was more there certainly was more undead monsters to choose from in the 1E time frame, but there's so many more choices that you could use in the desert now. And, again, it just kind of screams to go to Cobalt Press or, potentially other publishers to try and get other ideas to just kind of fill in the gaps with some more creative monsters than what existed in the 1E days. So, I guess I made a little note here about the third part. So there was three modules, right? The first one was really just centered around um, going through the pyramid as well as the Ifrit getting released into the wild to cause havoc again. The second adventure did have dungeon components to it, but was also kind of also a there's just role playing opportunities there where they interact with a we'll call a desert. I'll use the word kingdom loosely, but a desert community and try and solve some mysteries there as well as doing an adventure. Of course, the players had pretty much skipped the whole role playing thing with the way they went through things, but it's there if you want it. The third part was really a hodgepodge of ideas that the author came up with. And there's a lot of good ideas in there for sure, but also there was a lot of incomplete ideas that was in there. So, as an example of this, right, in that third part, there's a spot where really cool idea where the desert landscape had been flattened with the battle from ancient times between the wizard and the Ifrit, right? And the sand had turned to glass, and then you had boats with basically ice skates on them that would sail right on this ocean of glass. Really cool idea. Could have done a lot more with it, but that's not how the module was written, right? And there's kind of a lot of that in there that I felt in that third part was inconsistent. But I don't want to get too deep into the Desert of Desolation here and make this a whole review on that. I just want to kind of set the stage of what's going on, which is trying to release this wizard and fighting a lot of undead or deserty things going on here. So with that, let's talk about the actual monsters themselves, which is why we're all here. So Uh, yeah, it's a full screen run. Thank you. Um, so technically, this guy is not really a desert guy, right? So this is a Balara. Sure, we'll go with that. And in the module, um, they have to go through, and hopefully, I'll try and keep the spoilers very light here. Um, I guess I should have said that before the ships on the glass, but that's actually one of the splash pages of the third module. So not much of a secret there if you've seen it. Um, this guy's not really a desert monster, but in the module, this is in the second module, they go into the temple of Set, right, god of undead. So you needed some more undead guys here, and this creature here is actually put together from he is undead, but he's assembled from animal bones and humanoid bones and so forth, and makes into this undead creature. So, and it talks about in the description about how this is kind of tied to druids and stuff like that. But in the end, I'm like, you're at a temple set. He can do whatever heck he wants. If he wants one of these guys in his temple, then chuck some of them in there. And I did. So, what do these guys have going on? Um, there is the ability here that if you see these guys, you can be frightened, right? So off the top, you've got people who have to decide, kind of similar creatures like Medusas and stuff. I mean, you don't turn to stone, but whether or not you want to potentially uh, keep your eyes away from the target and then getting disadvantage on your attacks. So that's one thing this guy has going for him to make him kind of nasty. The real thing, and to be quite honest, I didn't even notice it when I threw him in here. I was just going by the CR and I kind of read through it real quick. I'm like, yeah, this guy seems pretty cool. Um, he has a bite attack and a distance attack that if you get hit, you get hit with this, call it negative energy if I want to go back to the 1E days, but we'll call it necrotic energy. Well, you cannot be healed until the start of your next turn. So these guys were just a pain in the butt. Did end up one character sacrificing himself in order for the party to get away here. What happened was, again, spoilers. We'll just say the creatures in the temple got alerted to by the group. I won't say how. I'll try and keep it real vague. Um, we'll just say they made noise, right? So they made enough noise to alert the undead that these guys were there. And so when they opened up the door to the next room, these guys and a bunch of other undead were just waiting for him, right? And they didn't know what these creatures were, and they were kind of threw themselves at him. And then once they found out real quick that they couldn't be healed for a round after they got hit, it kind of went downhill from there, right? So there was a cleric in the group who was basically all about healing, and then he kind of became almost, I don't want to say worthless. He still did damage, but that wasn't the focus of his build. So that kind of certainly neutered him, so to speak. And then, like I said, it went downhill from there. He does have some ability to move without causing opportunity attacks, but he is a really nasty guy. So if you got some undead going on, and you want to put some scare in the party where they go through periods where certain characters can't be healed, especially if it's like your first line guys or whatever, and they took a bunch of damage and then you know they can't recover hit points. Yeah, this will put a scare into your guys real quick. So check out the Monster Vault on page 59 of Tales of the Valiant for this guy. Definitely fun times. With that, let's talk about this guy here. So, unfortunately or unfortunately, depending on your 2 cents on this, the group did not get to fight this guy, which I was really looking forward to, but they did kind of talk their way out of it. So this is a sand dragon, and I gotta say, over the years, all people always want to create new dragons, right? And I've always kind of resisted using them. I've always kind of liked the 1E dragons, the idea of, um, the metallic dragons versus the chromatic dragons. And other dragons that kind of been thrown in over the years, like the neutral gen dragons and stuff like that, never really did it for me, right? But I saw this guy in Tomb of Beast 3, and he just fit perfectly into what was going on with the campaign, and he was enjoyable. So it's a sand dragon. Um, in the description, it talks about that these guys kind of can hang out as guardians of lost empires, as they word it. But basically, if you have ancient ruins in the desert, these guys can be there, right? That's one place that they can appear, which just again fit the module perfectly in this case. The other thing I liked about this guy, which I think is the thing that really bit on me the most, is dragons always want treasure, 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 treasure. This dragon, um, not to say he doesn't like treasure, I'm sure he does, but also has a focus on food. That this dragon, because he's out in the middle of the desert and food is scarce there, not only does he have the an ability that he requires half of the normal amount of food a dragon can eat. Um, he's also always looking for food, right? Because of that. And you can see if you look at this dragon picture here, he kind of looks skinnier than your average dragon. So I like that. I thought that was sexy. So I definitely throw this guy in the campaign. Um, Other fun stuff about this guy, he has sand camouflage, so he has advantage on stealth rolls, and he does have like a +9 or something like that on stealth. So this guy is very stealthy. So in this camp, and he also has a burrow speed, um, which is half his flying speed. He burrows at 40, he flies at 80. So this guy, you know, when the group hit the area where this dragon was hanging and was going through some ancient ruins or what have you, um, they saw this dragon fly in, right, where they were at a distance. So I did give them some warning there was a dragon around. I did kind of, you know, constantly talk about some of his regional effects, which I won't go into here. You can read that if you want. I don't want to read the whole stats of this guy. But so they saw the dragon and they knew he was in the area, right? Want to give him fair warning before they just stumble upon a dragon. And in this case, I was having the dragon knew they were there as well, knew the group was there, and this dragon was stalking them, right? They were flat out, um, he was I was rolling stealth rolls with this guy, and he was basically just kind of working his way, trying to find the moment to attack because this in this case I believe it was a adult dragon that I had there. The adult dragon versus the group was probably roughly a 50-50 jester, right? It would have been a very tight contest if they had fought him. But luckily, because people who know me know, my monsters are not static. They were actually looking. Some people did some searches to see if they could see this dragon, and did make their stealth rolls to find out that they saw this dragon eyeballing them from a distance, right? So they were able to strike up a conversation with the dragon, and I I forget how it came up. I should have reviewed the video before I did this, but basically they keyed in because I think they saw when the dragon first flew in that the group had actually killed a monster that will be later in this video, and they were going to I think use the creature for parts later on, or they had some fun idea with it, right? So this was on the deck of their ship that they were traveling in, and the dragon had come down and eaten this creature, the dead creature, off the deck, right? So it kind of maybe it was that gave the group an idea that this dragon was looking for food, and at the beginning of this adventure, because they were in the desert, I was having the group track food because I wanted them to kind of feel that pressure a little bit, and also to force the cleric to, if they weren't careful or if they had gone too long in the desert without finding civilization in some way, shape, or form, that the cleric would have to waste a create food and water spell per day to keep them going, right? Because they had themselves and camels and other stuff. And so at some point in the adventure, they were high enough level and whatever. I had enough of that. So as part of a reward, they had gotten a portable hole, and the people that they had interacted with had given them a whole bunch of food and water. It was food and a decanter of endless water, which obviously would be very useful in the desert. And they came up with the idea of giving this dragon half their food. And they struck a deal with the dragon, didn't have to fight the dragon. And I thought that was tied right into the theme and a creative way of doing it. Um, Good for them. I was really hoping to use this guy. He has so many fun things. He does have two different types of breath weapons. Um, in the sense of he has to choose between one and the other on his recharge. There's a sandblast, which is basically his hot blast weapon. And then there's a blinding sand breath weapon, which really doesn't do damage, but will probably blind a lot of creatures unless they, take time to clear the sand out of their eyes. So that's kind of a fun thing. Of course, he has all kinds of fun attacks, and it's Cobalt Press, so they're nasty. Definitely, if you have a desert campaign and looking to put in something a little different, as a boss, or maybe you take some of the younger versions of this dragon. Yeah, could be a fun time, and definitely has some unique abilities. So let's go to an oldie and a goodie. And at least when I look on Cobalt Press's webpage, where it kind of you could do a monster search, it does list this creature as living in the desert. So this is a phase spider. So this has been around forever in Dungeons and Dragons. So I guess I wanted to give this guy a little talking to as well. And as everything with Cobalt Press, they make their monsters nastier. So I wanted to call this guy out. So if you never fought one of these bad boys before, in the D&D version of this guy, the phase spider as a bonus action can bounce back and forth between the ethereal plane, right? So you can have a situation where you're fighting some phase fight spiders. They pop into the ethereal plane, move somewhere else, and the next round pop back in and attack, right? So very annoying creature to fight. Cobalt Press took it up a step further, which besides giving this dude multi attack now, and now if you get hit with this guy's webbing, the person who's webbed gets thrown into the ethereal plane. So if you're looking for a good way to divide the group up and really get them, worrying about it, I believe when I had them fight this spider, the group was already divided into three subgroups, not of their choosing. They had been separated through the course of the story. And that's when the spiders attacked, which then I think I had, like, it was a group of six. So I had three groups of two, excuse me, yeah, three groups of two, and then you had a group of spiders attacking each of these groups of two, and then when someone got webbed, that character would be isolated, and then the phase fighter could hop into the ethereal plane for a little one-on-one battle. um, so yeah, these guys, the fact that they can get their prey into the ethereal plane and isolate them can be a very scary thing, especially considering these things are only a CR3. So theoretically, you could have these guys go against some lower to mid-level groups and really scare the crap out of them. So this guy's in the Monster Vault on page 274. I forget if I said it for the other dragon, but he was on Tomb of Beast 3, but you'll see that in the previous slide. So yeah, definitely a fun time with this guy. The last guy I want to talk about is this guy, which is a Suncatcher Scarab. So this guy's a CR10, and he is just, I don't think I totally, I know I didn't optimize the way this guy could have attacked the group, um at the time, right? But that's okay. I mean, not every time you meet a monster is going to be advantageous to the group and or monster, right? So but still, they pissed this guy off and they got to fight this guy for a bit. So this guy here is basically a giant beetle scarab, right? So some of the fun things that he has, he's really noisy. So if you're within 15 feet of this creature, characters can't talk to each other because of the noise, and the spellcasters can't cast spells with verbal components, which is most of them, right? So it's almost like a reverse silent spell, kind of, sort of, right? Too much, so much noise that you can't talk. Yeah, so that's kind of a fun thing with him. He has these big wings, which I put breath weapons in air quotes. Clearly, it's not, but you can use the wings to either make a very loud sound, which kind of acts like a I don't say it acts like a yeah, it kind of does like act like a breath weapon. It's like a cone of sound that it can either knock you over as well doing deal a decent amount of damage, or instead of sound, it can reflect the light off of its, um, you know, kind of stained glass window wings there, and also do similar that the exact same amount of damage potentially, as well as blinding the character. So that's a fun thing, as well as this scarab can again burrow into the ground and then burst up underneath its targets, knocking them prone and do damage. Um, yeah, lots of fun ideas for this guy here. Um, So yeah, he's definitely worth taking a look at. Also in Atoma Beast. So yeah, so I just want to kind of highlight these desert monsters, mostly desert monsters, and give folks some ideas on what to do in their campaign. This guy, I would have liked to have used him maybe a little more optimally, but that's okay. That's okay. Definitely fun. He definitely caused some fun times for the group as it was. So that's it. So with that, I'll let you all go. We're almost on the Memorial Day holiday, start of summer. So if you seeing this shortly after I create the video, hopefully you all have a fun weekend in the U.S. and talk to y'all soon. Bye.